show that, and we are. Good morning, good morning. We're so happy to have everybody here today. My name is Cindy Cummings, and I'm one of the founders of LT Senior Services. We are a nonprofit, and our goal is to help older adults as they are moving through life. And one of the things that we do is offer these seminar webinars, and we're excited to have you here today to hear about the myths. We've got some great myths that we're going to go through today. Before we get started, let me just tell you about some events that are coming up for LT Senior Services, of which there is a plethora. September's very busy. I'm like, why are we doing all this in September? I think because the weather's nice is one of the reasons why we have all these activities in September. One of the first is Shred Day. So we're doing the Shred Day next Tuesday, and it's going to be at Barker Keats Place over there on 620 Lakeway Aquatic Center. Aquatic physical therapy parking lot. You cannot miss it. It is a huge truck, and come there, put all your papers in your trunk, and we'll get all your papers out of your trunk for you. So that's going to be next Tuesday. Then we have the Aging Well Expo. It's going to be at the Activity Center. The reason why we have the expo at this time of year is so that you can get your flu shot. So if you come, you'll be able to get your flu shot. So bring your paperwork to be able to claim it for free. And we will do that. In addition, we have some great speakers. Dr. Mark Carlson from BWellMD will be speaking. Maya will be talking about Medicare, the confusingness of Medicare. Each year we have a Medicare representative talk about the changes. She'll be talking about that. And then we have a third speaker, and it is Amy. And Amy is from Aging is Cool, and she's going to talk about how to age cool. I like it. So she's going to be talking. Our October seminar series is going to be Sleep and Aging, and Baylor Scott & White is going to have one of their doctors come. It will not be recorded, so we just want to make sure that people know that. So you got to be here. So we're excited for Baylor Scott & White to come talk about sleep. In Matter of Balance class, remember we had talked about this months ago, that we thought that this was really important. Actually, we had a doctor come, and the doctor said how important balance was to your overall health. So we have a Matter of Balance class coming. There is a wait list for it. We have 12 people who can come to the class. We have a wait list. If you would like to come, just get on the wait list, and it could be something that you could go to. It's 8 weeks. I know 8 weeks seems like a lot, but after you have come, they sing praises about how much better your balance is. It's free also. In November, our seminar is going to be Your Forever Home, Building, Buying, and Remodeling Options. I'm the speaker. Who wouldn't want to come to that? So I'll be able to share all my 23 years of real estate background with you, and working with hundreds of clients when they think about, should we remodel, should we build, should we buy, should we move? An RV sometimes sounds really good. I don't know what y'all think. And then we're going to do Lakeway Trail of Lights. It is December 4th. It is at the Activity Center. We meet at the Activity Center, and we have cocoa and cookies, and then we go and walk the Trail of Lights together. So I hope you'll come to that. Okay, I think I got through all the, I'm looking at Paula. Did I get through it all? I think I did. So we are a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. We have members. People have paid money to become members. They are in this great directory, of which we're a little low on because we're reprinting for the Aging Well Expo. But in here, you'll see all of our different members. We have about 40 members right now. We have some of those members here today that are going to be speaking, and then we have some members who are not going to be speaking. And so we're going to have the non-speaking members come up so that they can tell us about their business. So of course, we've got the library. We love the library. They are great supporters of us, and they're going to talk a little bit about the services that they provide.
I think I have 4 things I want to promote today. Number 1, how many people here know that we have a free notary service?
Oh,
we have 4 staff members who can serve as notaries. They're not here 100% of the time, so you might want to call and say, hey, is there a notary there before you pop over? But almost always there's a notary here. And they're always staff members who or volunteers who could serve as a witness. So don't pay for that. Come to us.
That's awesome.
Notary. I know. I don't know. Number 2, we have a free home delivery service. If you can't get to the library for a medical reason, we'll drop off a bag of books and movies once a month. It can be hard to find people who need that service, so everyone here has homework to help us spread the word about that. Number three, we have all kinds of amazing programs at the library. I'm going to promote two of them today. Number one, today can be the day where you come to the library in the morning and then you come back at 4 o'clock. Our very own Jeremy Self is doing a talk in this room at 4 o'clock, Investing 101. Definitely going to be worth it. Get you the basics, ask any questions today at 4 o'clock. The fourth thing I want to tell you about is Friday at 1 p.m. Lake Travis Fire and Rescue is going to do a talk to help prevent falls and fires in your home. So if you can't get into that matter balance class, come on Friday at 1 o'clock just to learn some tips about preventing falls in your home. Thank you. See y'all soon.
Awesome, thank you. Where are the mics?
They're in the podium, right?
Oh, they're in the, okay.
Touch. Yep. No.
Oh,
Yeah. Was that Amberly from Memory Forward?
oh, there. We haven't met. Welcome,
Yes,
welcome.
thank you.
Yes, tell us a little bit about your company.
Yes, so my name is Amberly White. I work for Memory Forward, where we organize and digitize family photos. So we can scan anything from old slides to VHS tapes to photo albums to just regular old prints. And then we give you digital copies so that you can share them with anyone that you choose. We first sort your materials so that they're organized by year and event in well-organized groupings so that everything is well-organized, and then it's accessible. So you can have it either on a thumb drive or it can be added to your Apple Photos. So you can use it every day. It's very easy. And yeah, it's a great way to organize your materials and preserve your family history and then pass on your memories to future generations. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. We talk a lot about that. Remember in some of our past seminars and webinars, we've talked about photos and the conundrum. I mean, it's just like a. Didn't think about sorting them first before I scanned.
Yeah.
That's probably the smart thing to do. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to have our speakers come up and I will introduce them. I'm gonna get the mics. So we'll pass around. We have two. Yeah, so we'll pass around one. Okay. See if I can get it going. So, what do you think?
Does one work? Yes, we have a buzz. It's the green light.
Check 1, 2. This one works.
Okay, great. So, we're gonna be really loud today, but we'll also have a microphone. What we're trying to do is help the people who are at home. We have a large group. How many from home are listening? 10. About 10. So, we try to do this for them, but if it's buzzing, that's not fun. So we'll do it this way. Okay, so Whitney is in the middle. She's with a company called Sacred Stories, and she is a personal historian specializing in legacy films. She has helped capture the life stories of over 100 people on film, preserving their stories and memories for families and future generations. She has studied intergenerational storytelling and reminiscing and enjoys speaking to groups about these topics. She's speaking today, as a matter of fact. Whitney loves serving families through her filmmaking and also serving the great community as a resource on ways that we can engage with stories of our lives. Is the buzzing too much? Yeah, I think we're gonna
Hold it back.
hold it back.
Is it too loud?
I think I'm just gonna,
Yeah, your voice carries.
oh, I've heard that before. Ask my kids. Jeremy's down at the end and he's with Cedarwood Financial Partners. And he's a founding partner and financial planner and has been in financial services for 4 years. Prior to that, he started and led an area church for 11 years, where he regularly facilitated financial classes for church members, helping people learn to budget, eliminate debt, and invest. Jeremy's philosophy is to help his clients replace their financial fears with confidence and peace of mind, guiding them with their agreed upon strategy. So that's Jeremy. Lina is here at the other end, and she's an aging life care manager. You need one of these people in your hip pocket. So you're going to learn a lot about what she does. She spent more than 30 years in the healthcare industry as community educator and area director for 10 years in the hospice industry. She worked with families and healthcare providers, educating and advocating for increased awareness and better understanding of issues that emerge during end-of-life care. As CEO at MIR Senior Care Consultants, Lina advocates that pre-planning in a complex healthcare system with will help their clients and families to maintain control of their choices and achieve a greater peace of mind. So we have a variety of speakers here today, and our topic actually is just talking about some of the myths that we hear in all of these different kinds of industries. So we have a set list of questions that we're going to ask each of the different speakers. And then at the very end, we'll have time for question and answer. So that's kind of the format for today. So I'm just gonna start reading the questions that we have. So Jeremy, the myth, here's the myth.
Right.
You have no control over your required minimum distribution amounts.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, so the myth of that you have no control over your required minimum distribution is obviously it's a myth. You do have control over it in several ways. One way, if you're charitably inclined, is you can make a qualified charitable distribution. Qualified charitable distributions can go to any registered 501c3. So if you are in a place where you don't necessarily need the income from your investments, from your required minimum distribution, then you can make that to your church, to whatever organization you're a part of that you would like to donate to. So you do have options on your required minimum distribution.
All right, myth number one.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
The amount is based on the formulas. That's no,
You can't change that,
Okay.
correct? Yeah, the
okay,
amount
I
that
want to make
you,
sure,
your required minimum distribution is based on your age
right,
and
that's a formula.
yes, a formula, yes.
Okay, great. All right, Whitney, it's too late to start planning for my future.
Okay.
Okay.
Too late to start planning for my future. So the end of our planning for the end of lifelong process, right? Not 4 simple steps to prepare for the end of our lives. Something we spend our whole lives doing, no matter what age we are when we pass. I want to submit that one of the ways we come to terms with the end of our lives is through engaging with our stories, is sharing our stories. And there's actually scientific research surrounding this, that older adults have greater well-being, physical, mental, emotional, when they engage with their life stories. And I've seen this in the storytellers that I've worked with and the clients that I've had. And it also applies to younger people as well. To engage with our life stories builds connection between people. It builds connection within ourselves, with our past, our present, our future, and helps us make meaning of our lives. So I'd say now is the time to do it.
Thank you. Okay, here's yours. It's a fun one. My family will take care of everything.
So I thank you, Cindy, for the introduction. I'm an aging life care manager. So what does that mean? It's air traffic control for all the moving pieces and parts that come with taking care of an elder or someone with special needs. And so I am personally a daughter caregiver of my mom. And over the 10 years and the 20 years that our business has been in existence, we have talked to many daughters, sons, spouses who didn't plan. And I will tell you that the greatest gift that you can give your family is to plan. Because if this generation of children don't talk, guess what? It passes on to the next generation and the next generation. Sometimes there's only children, which that also parents don't want to leave the burden of caring, but eventually that will fall on a child, an adult child in the family. So I just want to speak from my own point of view is that as a daughter caregiver, I'm a first generation Asian American here, and I had tiger parents that raised us to do the best that we could and that don't worry about them. I also have 3 siblings. And even though my parents were the best planners, they did not communicate their wishes to 2 of the siblings that were supposed to be involved in the care decision-making process. That is an attorney and a physician. They're like, well, why wasn't I included in all of this? And so the planning was there, but the communication was not. And what happened was we fought when my dad was dying. We fought and we fought and we fought what we thought was the best thing for parents. Everybody has a different interpretation. So the lesson here is that if you don't communicate your wishes to your family members, and you don't update your wishes or communicate where you want to be, how you want your life to be lived, it can really be damaging. Bring all of the children that are supposed to be involved, include them, update them, don't exclude, but include so that everybody is on the same page. Because when you are sick or there is a crisis, it is the worst time to figure out when and what to do for your parent or even for your spouse.
I'm gonna ask another question.
Sure.
What about the in-laws, like the daughter-in-law, the
Mhm.
son-in-law?
So we have those.
Yeah.
And
As most families do, yes.
And my parents were very specific about that, is that the decision making, because it's not only healthcare, but it's also money. Financial is also a big part of the care. You have to have the money in order to have the care, right? I mean, you can't just depend on Medicare and Medicaid. They were very specific, and there had to be an agreement that it was just the core siblings that were involved. And again, it is not an overnight thing. It is a marathon, and it is a repetitive conversation. And an update, I think, every year is, whether that's Thanksgiving or Christmas or whenever you get together, to have that discussion and reiterate.
And there are professionals to help
That's right.
with these
Such
different
as.
components of planning.
Mediation.
Yeah, sometimes a third-party person, if you're having some problems, and especially if you've had life experiences yourself.
Yeah.
I've had some of those too, so it just helps when you're talking to people and say, I've been there, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
And you don't want it to go down the serious route of guardianship or,
Oh, gosh.
contested,
Yeah.
that, then, you're going down a deep, dark, expensive path.
Right. Well, we're gonna ask the next question to you since you just did one. So I'm too young or healthy to need future care planning.
Well, no. Listen, I'm in the industry and I thought, oh, I'm 50. I don't, I need to practice what I preach. And so, you have to face your mortality and plan. Again, I think COVID was a perfect example of when you don't think that anything is going to happen and the next day the world shuts down. And in our caring for adults and spouses and children with special needs, those parents passed away in the hospital and the legacy planning wasn't there. The conversation had been had, when you're taking care of an adult special needs adult child, you're the primary caregiver, so you don't think that anything's going to happen to you, or you don't want to face that. But again, we had parents that went to the hospital and never came back out. And so I think that was really the biggest story and the biggest lesson there, is that it's never too early to plan. I think all of us in our industries know that it's never too early to start planning and having those conversations. So I would say start now. I just did my estate planning actually like 10 years ago when I was 50. So, and I think that was too late. So I'm encouraging my younger friends, get the plans done, at least the basics.
Right. Okay, Whitney, future generations want all of our stuff.
It's myth. Future generations, the key word there is all. Future generations do want our stuff, but just like we didn't want all of the stuff of the generations that came before us, future generations don't want all of our stuff, right? They want some of our stuff. They want stuff that has monetary value, right? Is honest and true. Fact, they want stuff that is infused with story and with meaning. And I've discovered that in my work, but also in my own life. People want things that are connected to story and relationship, including photos. on our precious photos that we keep are connected to story and relationships, and that's why we want to hold on to them. One suggestion that I often give people is when you're decluttering, and Lake Travis Senior Services, almost every year, there's one of the seminars related to decluttering in some way. But one of the suggestions I like to give people is when you're decluttering and considering your stuff is to infuse it with story, to make that choice to do that. If you're passing on a cookbook, and you want to give it to someone while you're living, what is the story behind why you are sharing this item, or artwork in your home? What is the story or the meaning for it to you to pass that on to future generations? So the myth was, do our future generations want our stuff, or all our stuff? And the fact is that future generations want our wisdom, our blessing, our words, and that is our legacy. That's that word legacy to me, and the influence that we carry.
Great.
So,
All right, Jeremy. Social Security alone is enough for income in retirement.
I'm glad
We're
you
all
all-
laughing.
Yeah, you
They
all
all
think
know
it's funny. Does anybody here know that I've asked this question in a couple of presentations I've done here at the library? How much we should expect Social Security to make up in terms of our income or needs? It's printed on your Social Security statement every year, and it's 38%. Yeah, so 38% of your expenses should be covered by Social Security. Obviously, that can be lower if you have lower expenses. It could be higher if you have higher expenses. And planning for those things is very important. When we're talking about legacy planning, we're saying, hey, that there's something that we're leaving behind, and Social Security doesn't get left behind. So, actually, I shouldn't say that. It can get left behind for a spouse, but it doesn't get left behind for future generations. So that is an important thing to note. But yeah, when we're talking about retirement income, when the paycheck stops and we have to turn on income, we've got to have Social Security. Somehow there's income from that, but it shouldn't make up all of your income for your retirement.
Do you know what percentage of retirees who are getting Social Security that is all their income?
That is not no, I don't know that.
Yeah. What do you suppose?
Well, I guess it's maybe not in the space that I work in.
Right.
The space I work in is people who have
Right.
prepared and planned.
Right.
So I'm not sure.
I have those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, in the guardianship world, I'm an indigent guardianship provider in Brazos County, and we have about 38 wards that are solely existing on Social Security. And so you have to find resources to supplement, and those are public resources, which those are very few and far between, because they also have intellectual disability or mental health, severe mental health issues. So it's a lot.
And I understand more and more are going to be dependent on Social Security and not the planning part. So
Sure, yeah.
note here, get with financial planner and get some planning ahead, and maybe not take as many cruises and trips. Plan for your future. All right, Jeremy, let's ask you again.
Okay.
Estate planning is only for the wealthy.
Yeah, so that's a myth that we address all the time. When we're talking about legacy planning or estate planning, and let's back up. So maybe the better word is legacy planning is
Okay.
only for the wealthy, that being the myth.
Okay.
Estate planning is a subcategory of leaving a legacy, right? It might be part of it, but it's not the only part of it. And so one of the things that I think is valuable is thinking through what are the values, what are the family traditions. What are the important things that I want to pass on to the next generation that is non-monetary?
Okay.
You know, thinking about what are the trips that you want your family members to remember that you've gone on together? What are the holidays that you've celebrated that you want them to have recollection of, and maybe perhaps they continue on with that tradition? One of the traditions we always had for Christmas was going to my in-laws' home for Christmas celebration. And probably it was 2021, my mother-in-law passed away from breast cancer. And so we wanted to not let that tradition slip away simply because she wasn't with us anymore. So that Christmas, even though my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and their families, we all live within like 6 minutes of each other. We all went and stayed the night at my father-in-law's house on Christmas Eve so that we could celebrate that tradition together. So we woke up that Christmas morning and all had that family time together. And I bring that up just as an example of what we can do outside of money. That doesn't cost anything to do that, to spend time with the people that are closest to you.
Great. Whitney, photos are the best way to preserve memories.
Well, photos are precious, and we've got Memory Forward now that's part of Lake Travis Senior Services, specializing in organizing and digitizing our photos, and we all have photos. And they're important to us, they're precious to us. One of the conversation starters that I often ask in my interviews with my storytellers is, tell me about a favorite treasured photo that you have. And even if that person no longer has that photo, they'll be able to describe just a treasured photo that's been meaningful to them in their life. And it's always, as I said before, infused with story and with relationship. Those treasured photos mean something to us because of the people, the places, the impact, the legacy that's been passed to us in some way. So if we want to explore the meaning behind our photos, we have to go a step further, and that is engaging with the stories. The CEO of Memory Forward, Laura Woolsey, she just wrote an article for my blog about how sometimes people organize their photos and it leads to this idea like, oh my gosh, I need to explore the stories behind these photos. Some people engage with the work that I do first to tell their stories, their life stories. And then a byproduct of that is finding photos, organizing your photos. So the two go hand in hand. There are so many different ways to reminisce and tools for that, photos being one. But I love to speak about other types of ways to do that, and journaling, recording our stories on audio, video, writing, whatever. So yes, lots of different ways to do it. Photos is an important way, but not the only way.
Who's talking to you, Whitney?
I don't know.
I just said something. Apple phone is talking to her.
I hung it up, but I guess I answered.
I've done that before.
Gave that person a real thrill.
So here's a good one, Lina.
Yes.
Medicare or Medicaid will cover everything.
Well, I'm sure you all found out that that is not true. Medicare and Medicaid, many folks don't know, the people that I have encountered in my work, it's so closely sounding alike, Medicare, Medicaid, that oftentimes it gets confusing on which is which. Medicare is a federally funded, Medicaid is state funded, okay? So Medicare does not cover any custodial care. Medicaid, there are qualifications that you have to meet, financial, medical, And some folks think that, oh, I have this money, but I want to qualify for Medicaid, so I'm just going to give my money, I'll gift it. Well, Medicaid has a 5-year look back period, so that will automatically disqualify you from being eligible for Medicaid because they have some way of finding out that you have gifted money to a relative or, you know, a child. So it's really important to have this professional village of people that can help with your legacy planning, if you will. And I like to say that it's the attorney to set up the legal plan, the financial planner to make sure that you have the resources to at least last your lifetime. And then the base of that triangle is the care plan. And so the care plan can give ideas on cost, long-term care, home care, different options on how you want to live your life as you age. And so it's really important to, I think my profession, aging life care managers are underutilized. We always talk about, we talk about the financial plan, we talk about the legal plan, but none of that matters if you don't know what your care plan is.
That's right.
And so it's really important to be, do the research, but also look into these professionals that will be able to help you so that you have a realistic idea of what your care is going to look like, how Medicare is going to fit. Will you at some point be spending down your assets and be qualifying for Medicaid? In that case, what are the facilities that accept Medicaid? Look at those facilities and make sure that, there's not all Medicaid facilities are created equal. And not all assisted livings or long-term care settings are created equal. So it's really important to educate yourself when you have the control to do that. And right now, you have the control.
You get to make the choice.
Yeah,
So
Before
make your
somebody
own
else.
plan. Yeah, and somebody else will, whether it's a kid
Yeah,
or the state
Yeah.
or who else? Do
Guardianship.
doctors sometimes also say you can't go home?
guardians. will
Guardian,
Tell you that
yeah.
if they're APS
Yeah,
will tell you.
yeah.
So, and then, we have Medicare and Medicaid, but then let's open the door to Medicare Advantage plans. That's a whole nother beast of, options. And is it most appropriate for what you need? Will it cover, I think, and Medicare Advantage plans are great when you're well. But then we've run into some, and I'm not disparaging it, it's a good fit for some folks, but sometimes when you're in the hospital and you have a Medicare Advantage plan, the truth is that they're going to tell you when you need to leave the hospital. And, it's usually sooner than later.
Mhm. I'm gonna go off topic. Did it
Yeah.
break?
I don't know, I'm gonna turn it around.
Okay. We have had clients who hire people like you, Lina.
Yes,
When the hospital, the rehab wants to discharge somebody and the family doesn't feel like they're ready to be discharged, or the patient too. Is that something that you see a lot of, where you have to have a third-party person come in and be an advocate for?
yes. So I will say that when you have an aging life care manager, you're usually not in the hospital because we do so well taking care of you at home and putting in those services so that the repeat hospitalizations are not happening.
Okay.
So that's why I say underutilization of what we do is, I'm here to spread the word also of what my profession, not MIR, but what aging life care managers do. But yes, we have had to appeal many discharges. And as you know, they call you at 5:00, come get your loved one, they need to go home. And that's not appropriate planning. When somebody's discharged in the hospital, I can guarantee you that they're already having a meeting about when you're going to be discharged or when your loved one is going to be discharged. So it's really important to get in touch with the case manager, the social worker, ask the clerk at the desk on the floor and say, who is overseeing my loved one's care, and start talking to them, and you be proactive. But also with discharge planning, they have to give you instructions and information on why they're discharging and what those instructions are post-discharge. And a lot of times it's not a safe discharge. You can't expect that you say that you're going to discharge somebody at 5:00 on Friday and have caregivers, home health, hospice, medications on board. And I reference that, and it kind of gives me a rise, is because my dad, who
I had him for 363 days, with his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. They discharged him on a Friday without pain meds.
Oh, gosh.
And my dad was a doctor at this hospital for 35 years. And
That's terrible.
I had to be a crazy daughter and advocate and say, we need to get his pain medications. They just discharged him. And so that's probably a worst case scenario, but it does happen more often than not. So I always try to empower the families. Look for that discharge planner, look for that case manager, and start talking to them so that you're prepared on when that discharge is gonna happen.
I think most people just try to hide from that person, miss them in the hallways.
Oh,
You
yeah.
Can't tell them. that they're
Well, I
gone.
will sit in front of their office. If you have me on your team, I will sit in front of their office and
Love
make
it.
sure that it doesn't
Love it.
happen.
Jeremy, risk adverse investments are the only option for seniors.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, risk adverse, we're talking about bonds, CDs, cash. Those investments can be helpful in your retirement portfolio and in your investments. However, if that's all you have, the chance of your purchasing power being eroded away because of inflation is very, very high. So what our research shows is that a portfolio that is well diversified with both equity investments or stocks and more risk adverse investments, those are both, it's just important to have both of those in your portfolio. One of the things that, you know, even we've seen in the last 3 years is that bonds weren't necessarily the safest place for your investments to be, right? Because what are bonds exposed to? Interest rate risk. So when interest rates go up, bond prices decline. It's like a seesaw effect. And so this is why only risk adverse investments are not the only thing that needs to be in your portfolio.
Great. Lina, it's too complicated and expensive to create a care plan.
I think everybody should have a care plan. And let me start by saying that there are care managers there and out there, and there are aging life care managers. So it's really important on who does your care plan. You have to have good information. You have to have accurate information. And my standard is if they're not a good extension of my practice, they're not going in my care plan. So that is we have very few opportunities, maybe one opportunity, two, if your parents are both living, to do a great job and make sure that their care experience is the best that it can be. At least that's what I want for my parents, or that's what I did for my dad. And that's what I'm doing for my mom as a daughter caregiver. So an aging life care manager, aging life care manager has credentials, they're certified. Recertification is required every 2 years. They have to have, college level educated or higher, social services background, nursing, social worker, guardianship, APS. And so it's really important to know who is doing your care plan. You don't want, somebody that doesn't really have a good understanding. There has to be a holistic approach because we're not a siloed, care takes there's a lot of moving pieces and parts to care. You got caregiving, you got family dynamics, you got medications, you got follow-up appointments, you got safety, nutrition, psychosocial, add mental health on there, add dementia, disease process. You're not only adding emotional, pressure, but there's also who and what and where do I go for great care. And so that's where aging life care managers come in. So the care plan, the comprehensive care plan, just think of this. If I'm a 40-year-old daughter who has 3 kids, a husband, a part-time job, every kid is in sports. It's where do you go? And then the crisis happens. Then what? Your, daughter's scrambling. What are we going to do? So this care plan is really your roadmap to care. And it should be reviewed along with the financial plan, along with the estate plan. It should be reviewed to make sure that, hey, the person that I've appointed as my medical and durable power of attorney, are they able to execute on that? That's very important. A lot of families, what they will do is put the oldest, and then sometimes that oldest person grows into an adult and it's like,
they're not the right person to make those decisions for me, right? Not everybody's wired to do those decisions, to have a medical decision made and be put in be responsible for that. I know my sister would fall apart, even though she was the original medical power of attorney. She would have fallen apart when she did fall apart when my dad was sick. So this comprehensive care plan, the holistic approach, looks at different areas and they assess the need. And whatever the need is, there's a professional recommendation that's given. That care plan is your deliverable to say, okay, I'm gonna go look at memory care, assisted living. I'm gonna get a feel for what it looks like based on MIRS or aging life care recommendations. Oh, I need to get evaluated for neurology. I'm gonna look at these specific physicians. Home health, hospice care agencies, there are hundreds out there. Who's going to deliver that care? So it's good to have this plan to know which direction you need to go, but also call the agencies. Pricing is a big thing. Minimums for caregiving is a big thing. What does hospice cover? What doesn't it? What does home health cover? What don't they? And that also depends on the insurance that you have. So looking at your benefit structure and seeing, hey, can I get XYZ based on my diagnosis? Am I eligible to see this doctor? What are the co-pays? So also preparing with the financial plan, the expenses that you are going to need, that you're going to incur, and what you need in order to age well in this country, because aging in this country is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
With our financial plans, we say that the biggest unexpected expense is medical care in retirement years. And so in our financial plans, we budget in between $6,000 and $7,000 annually, additionally to what their normal expenses are. Yeah. And so we want them to have that. And then we do another, $90,000 in the last 2 years of life as part of our financial planning, because statistically, we're going to have that need for care in the last couple of years of life.
So, and just to cite an example, let's just say caregiving. You hire a non-medical caregiving agency. They usually have a 4-hour minimum. Okay. And it's $32 to $36 an hour. That's the going rate today. You add inflation and cost of living increases, that's just going to that cost per hour is going to get higher and higher and higher. So, again, that's not a scare tactic, it's just the reality. And so again, going back to pre-planning, it's really essential. And so having this care plan, you got to face it head on, but it will also give you a good idea of what the expenses are that you're going to incur down the road.
Okay. Okay, we're opening it up for questions. If you have a question, if you would stand up and just talk loud. So we don't have mics, so just go for it.
I'm Paul Nathan. My wife's not here today. I really appreciate all your thoughts. Is there a checklist? My wife is a licensed pharmacist.
Oh.
And she's quite qualified. Anyway, what I want to get at is, do you have a checklist or where anything for reference to all that you've been speaking about?
Yes, and so my information is over here. So if you email me, I can send you what I give my families when they meet with us, but I'm happy to share that. And it's really just the basics of what you should have in your long-term
You know
plan.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
I like checklists.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
That's been my life.
Yes.
Check,
Yes.
recheck, double check.
And you said your wife is a licensed pharmacist. I'll tell you, with medication management, the pharmacist is your best friend.
Well, then that's short story is that she had, cancer and they put the wrong, she's allergic to and so we show up at the emergency room and where'd you get your surgery? Well, we got it here at ADC, and well, who's your surgeon? He said, ask her, she knows more about drugs than I do. I mean, you know.
Yeah, that's a good person to have on board. Yeah.
And
The
it's
pharmacist
that's
is
what you
important.
Need to do is,
Yeah.
is your best person to monitor is. a
Your
pharmacist.
medications,
But who's gonna, I mean,
This is just a tip for, when, when you go into the hospital, oftentimes they're introducing new medications. They'll give you new medications you gotta take, gotta follow up with your physician. Ask your pharmacist if any of those new medications interact with any of the current medications. And they will know. And so sometimes we forget about the pharmacist in our care village, if you will. But the pharmacist is really good to have, and to talk to and to get to know.
All right. Any other questions? If not, our speakers will, Renee?
Yeah, I have a quick question. I'm Renee Conso. I have a mother that's almost 90. She lives over at Belmont. So I think she's doing pretty well. She's got really good insurance. She said the financial planning, all of that. But for someone like myself and my husband, we're both very healthy. And my husband's 70 and I'm 67. And you talk about a care plan. How do you do a care plan if you don't know that, okay, I've got cancer, I've got diabetes, is there just like a generic one?
There's a generic plan on how you want your wishes to be executed and, what your, what is happening today for you, and then what might happen down the road, the what if scenarios. Are you solo senior or solo couple? Do you have children or?
We have children.
Okay, so it's good to, I always like to say, have a third party to be able to kind of navigate clearly.
Yeah,
Because children get, adult children and we start panicking and it's like, what do we do? What do we do? So somebody that is the holder of your information outside of your family. So your medications, your physicians, your advanced directives, a lot of elder parents put them in a lockbox and it's like, well, that's not going to serve me well. If it's in a lockbox, I need it to be accessible, and also tips on, you may not want your children to have access to your financial information just yet, but somebody needs to know when that time is right to give that authorization, right? And also a learning lesson for me is that my mom and dad set themselves up very well financially, but there's a different, the access to those funds and the legal instrument, the durable power of attorney, varies from bank to bank. Just because you have the piece of paper that says I'm in charge of the finances, doesn't mean that the bank is going to accept it. So you need to take that and say, banking officer, will this work? Or do you have your own little form that I need to fill out? Because when the time has come that you need the money to access to pay for care, it needs to be readily accessible.
Yeah.
So it's really a plan designated for you and your husband to talk about how you want your life and your care to look like. And then what are the resources? So if I go into a rehab hospital, what is that going to look like if I have a fall and I break my hip? And then where do I go from there? And so navigating that whole landscape and to be able to talk to your children, your adult children, and say, here's what they wanted, and we'll help you navigate. But they also need to be included in that care plan so that they have some idea, because if we come out of the woodwork, they're like, well, who the heck are you? So once you determine what your plan is, then you bring in the family, and then you all have a family meeting and we talk about, and then it includes your financial plan and, not in detail with the financial plan, because we don't really need to know about that. But what are the resources that we're going to use in that financial plan to execute your care?
It's actually the perfect time. Because right now you're healthy, you're of mind, you're physically good. So it's a good time to meet with somebody because it's not under duress or under stress or have to
Can
make
think a little bit
decision
clearly.
today.
I had a colleague, somebody that was a first generation aging life care manager. She said it's the 40-70 rule. If your adult child is 40, approaching 40, and you're in your 70s, estimated that it's a good time to start the conversation, if not a little bit earlier.
an estate plan,
Yeah.
like a will that we have 2 children
Mhm.
who are kind of go doing that. So that's all kind of set. And they know about that they're the executor.
Right. They're the executor and they're the medical and they're the durable outside of your husband. So they're secondary, right?
Yeah,
So do they know how to execute?
they know we have all the documents at our house.
Right, but the care,
For that, this is all the financial, not like
Not
if
the
we
care.
have
not the
a car
care.
accident, both of us are.
Yeah.
Need care and, you know, they don't know,
That's where we come in.
I've heard
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
the care plan.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the perfect time, you know, because then you can get it all written down, the kids won't be fighting, because one kid's the financial and one
Oh,
kid's the
boy.
medical. One doesn't want to spend money and one wants to, I mean, I've seen that. where
Yes.
The other wants to spend all the money.
And
So you need to say, right?
they revert back to their 10 and 11-year-olds.
Yes.
And then they start hitting below the belt, right? And then here comes this animosity and fighting, and then then they don't talk to each other. Guess what? The cousins don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the families
You know, then it just
disband.
kind of, so your gift is plan it all out.
And do you have like a consultation?
Yes.
It's per hour, you come
Yeah.
in and
Yeah.
you probably fill out papers
Right.
and do some due diligence and exploring
Yeah.
and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Yeah. All right.
And has to be updated.
Yes.
Yeah, that family
Annually,
meeting,
probably.
annual
Updated, like, every 2
Thanksgiving,
years.
Christmas, New Year's, whenever that all the family gets together.
I think it's interesting just to listen, you know, to what all has been said today. And at the end of the day, I think the big takeaway is communicate, communicate, communicate.
Yeah.
It's tell your stories, it's communicate about your care plan. For financial planning, obviously, that's important. But having that intentionality with your communication is so vital. And I've talked about this before with estate planning, you know, if something happens to you before it happens to him, the probability of him getting remarried is high. And so then what's that plan look like? And has that conversation been had? Because that's important. It matters to the kids, I promise, you know, so, yeah, yeah.
Yep. Those guys get lucky. You got all those women
Blended-
just bringing over
blended
pies and brownies and.
And my takeaway is start small. And this whole topic of the living, dying, leaving a legacy is overwhelming and scary and big, and we all think about it in our lives, but it's like maybe a film feels too big and too overwhelming, but start small, write a story, tell a story, do a photo organization project that's small, and it may lead to more. And the same with financial planning or care management. It's like, that seems so, to tackle that checklist.
Yeah,
Feels very daunting, but it might be a phone call to get help, or just simply tackling one part of one conversation with family members about a topic.
or just even know what to expect.
Just to
You
begin.
may not commit, but at least, okay, you know what? I got the information.
Yeah.
Let me chew on it for a little bit. I also wanted to note that I've now been proactive in my planning, and my kids don't want to hear it. So it could go reverse. You gotta say, kids, we gotta have a family meeting, and they're like, I don't want to, you know, and they're in their 30s and they don't want it. It's also scary for them.
Sure.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So.
At your young
At this age,
yeah,
so it's also a two-way street, in getting them, involved, or at least just to listen. And again, it is a repetitive yearly. If not every time you see them, hey, you know, here are the important papers, I'm going on a trip, and if anything happens,
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
a box, right?
I love it.
I guess, we're in a digital age, so, you know, people have overwhelming pictures in a digital format. So I guess people gotta have access to your phone, and you could create a favorites album that would have family favorites or something to that effect, because I know I have a lot of pictures, and people aren't gonna wanna go through there and sort through those. Getting back to the scenario about the bank, if there's a problem with the bank, do you just have to go through probate court to get all that taken care of?
Well, probate is after the
Deceased,
the deceased, yes. So hopefully you're not going to probate, and that you talk to an attorney to put an irrevocable trust in place so that you're not going through that daunting process, because that's when the courts decide, not you.
So a durable power of attorney is not effective when you go to a bank.
Durable power of attorney is effective and it depends on how it's written, right? So if the person is incapacitated, like my dad was, and I went to Navy Federal and they said, oh, well, we sent this to our legal department, you have to fill out our own form. this is not gonna, it's gonna work, but we need to have supporting documentation that is Navy Federal specific or Wells Fargo. And it really, the advice here is just to go to the bank and say, will you accept this instrument for my relative or whoever I've
And
designated?
do that
access
on the front end.
On the front end,
Yes, like,
yes.
once you get designated as that power of attorney or financial power of attorney, go then to the bank or to the financial investment firm or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, so my dad's been deceased for 7 years, and they said, we don't have his death certificate on file. I said, I've given that to you like 10 times. So it also is very helpful to like, just make sure, because banks get acquired. Make sure that they have that document on file. So it is a pre-planning exercise to make sure and that they have it uploaded and it's in the account so that they know that you can access or that you have the authority to do that.
Well, and also if your loved one is still living, this happened to me very recently, and you need to be able to get money out of their account to pay for care.
Yeah,
And I did have a power of attorney, but it wasn't approved by the bank. So that's the other reason why you would go to the banking institutions, me now, and say, is there another form that my power of attorney needs to have, my durable power of attorney to pay for my care?
yeah.
I want to be able to get my money out,
Yeah,
who cares
exactly.
about getting the money later to be able to go buy a boat because your parent died?
Yeah.
It's really more important to
Yeah.
have it now, so, yes.
Is the simple way to do this will be the beneficiary form with your bank or your some kind of account?
It depends.
You have to ask the bank.
Well, beneficiary is for after you
After you-
pass. We're talking about.
Oh,
like,
that's right,
while you're
that's right,
still
after you
alive.
pass, that's
Yeah.
right.
Your
that's-
agent,
that's right,
your
that's
agent
right.
under durable and
Got it.
medical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but since you did bring up beneficiaries, I would highly recommend you go review all of your beneficiaries on life insurance and on your investments and your bank, because family things change. And so it's important to know that you don't have someone that maybe you don't want on there, that you know who those, and that your beneficiaries line up with your estate plan and your will. Because sometimes people don't know your beneficiaries will override what's in your will.
Yes.
So the percentages change. I have so many stories. We
Oh,
could be
God.
here. I mean, my mind's just going, oh, that happened there, this happened there.
Write a book.
It's not a happy book in most cases. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We look forward to seeing you at Shred Day next Tuesday, and then we have Aging Well Expo, and it's just so great to see y'all. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Question.